the one thing that, me as an environment artist that stood out to me with these updates that really helps with that is specifically with the post-processing effects. There's just so much more contrast to the game now. And that's almost something that they can kind of control on top of all the lighting and stuff. And you can just look at the screenshots between these. Like, look at the Crandor one, for example. The colors between first screenshot and the second one, they look incredibly washed and dull in the first one. And it's got more of a range to it. And it separates the foreground from the background a lot more, like Tana said. And it just helps it look a lot less muddy, I think.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, actually, from that perspective.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for, contrast. Thank you, Zant. You hit it. That was exactly what I was thinking of and could not get the right word for it. So, yes.
I think I said the same thing about the Lumbridge area update when they did that as well, because it's the same thing. It's bringing that lighting to the standard, new updated kind of standard that they have. And I bet they actually have proper, like, minimum contrast ratios and stuff like that they're maybe, like, using for their lighting now. Whereas
that's a good point. Like, whereas they would just do whatever they wanted then.
Yeah. So that's good. Like, I don't know if that's actually going on here, but it looks like what's actually going on here, because all these areas, they have the same kind of color gamut to them. They look really nice.
Okay, so. That's a good technical way of putting it, because that's one thing now that I miss when I log into Old School, is that everything in RS3 now just pops. And that, I think, is part of, I guess what you could say is there. Would you say that's like the art design or art style that they've chosen to go with for this, is that we're seeing this move more consistently through the game?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think they're kind of taking that more stylized approach that they've done with things like archaeology and Centiston, and kind of implementing that where they can. I mean, obviously we still build buildings and such.
Yeah, but, like right now, for folks watching on YouTube, you'll see that I'm in Shiloh Village here, and the buildings and whatnot are still the same old buildings that were always there. It's just a question of what's surrounding them, and then you take a few steps away from the building, and bam, you're in some deep trees. So. I also wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about the updated water effects, because you messaged me about this, and I said, yeah, that came in with a game engine update a few weeks back. You notice the river's actually flowing now.
Yeah, I thought it was crazy. Like, I was just standing in Lumbridge on that bridge, and the river was flowing. And I haven't been playing RuneScape at all, like really at all, for like the past month or so. So I just completely missed that. And it looks great, especially with the caustics below it that kind of flow with it.
Explain what that means.
That is the little highlighted light effects that appear below the water. It's effectively the light from the sun or whatever source it's coming from being refracted by the water. And it kind of creates this little pattern. It's the kind of thing you see when you're like, like the bottom of a pool on a sunny day, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay, so they can do that in effect then with something like a river or stream then, which you would need to have the proper lightings for in real life to kind of experience that thing. But when it comes down to it in the game engine, it's just part of that, I guess, style that pops. And I'm just sitting back here watching this and realizing that this is RuneScape in 2023, which, I mean, I don't know. My question is, would there be a push over time to update these areas to look like this if it were not for these Game Jam projects, is my question. And these two J-mods, Alex and Blkwitch, that worked on these.
I'm going to be real with you. I don't think so. I think this was a product of someone like Mod Blkwitch or Alex deciding that they could go in and kind of touch up these areas and, make somewhat of a graphical rework about it, instead of going the route of, or I'm not saying they were intending to go this route, but instead of the alternative of completely reworking the area from concept onward.
Right.
So, and that's the kind of thing that I think most people kind of think about when they think about graphical reworks. They think of things in terms of like the old Sears Village rework that they kind of canned. Like, you remember the concept from that? They had all new designs for almost every single building. Camelot Castle was like integrated into the mountain, which was kind of flowing into the village a little bit. And it just completely reworked the layout of the area. And that means they have to change all the interacts. They have to make sure everything for all the quests is up to date and all that is in sync. Whereas with these updates, things are kind of just staying in the same place, and they're updating textures and lighting and all these other effects that can bring the existing geometry up to a level where it kind of just looks better. Like, I mean, we had the example of Shiloh Village. You saw the buildings there. They kind of work with either style.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what reason do they really have to rework many of these areas? And like, what reason does Jagex have to throw money at that if they can just have a couple of their artists go in and do this? And it's basically, it's that bang for the buck with these kind of updates that they're going for.
You're getting 80% of the way there with doing a whole lot less work.
And that extra 20% is insanely dense. So
yeah,
it's getting to that 80%, I think, is a really good mark to be hitting with it.
Yeah, and that's something that Sirion actually also picked up on, so I'm glad that you mentioned that, is that when it comes down to this at the end of the day, it looks like an entirely different game, but at the same time, you get so much for this compared to, like you said, just reworking something completely from concept, which, the players might not like how it would look, or it might get derailed by various other things along the way.